know it's been a very successful transition to the WPIAL, back-to-back years in the playoffs. How much does that mean to this program?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Sean. It's everything. It's what you work for. You set out that you begin the season with your goals set on winning a conference championship. Only one person can do that. And then the second goal is to qualify for the playoffs, and then obviously, getting an opportunity to compete or be in a championship game is the next thing. So, whenever you're a goal-oriented type program, and that's one of the things that you preach to your kids and you reach one of those goals, it's very satisfying.
Your team has a record of 7-3, and you've been playing some good football recently, winning 2 straight games. When you look at the season as a whole up to this point, what are maybe some of the strengths that your team has shown?
Well, I think number one is the fact that, these kids have really bought into everything that we sold them from the beginning, changing the whole offensive structure and our defensive structure from what we had done for many years was really something that the kids had to embrace, and they did. And then the other thing is I'm going to be quite honest, from where we thought we were and from where a lot of other people thought, I think that our kids really overachieved. It's just a matter of, them just going out each week, believing in one another. And I couldn't be prouder of our kids, and especially our 13 seniors. I guess I didn't realize that, this is one of those classes where you look at our 13 seniors, every one of them contributes on offense or defense. And a lot of times you don't have that on teams. You got to have a couple kids that you get in on special teams. But for our seniors, I mean, they're all major contributors. And ultimately, I guess, our success has been, we've had a great run of being able to use Hayden Siraki in many different ways and squeezing everything we can out of him. And then, all the role players have contributed as well. I can't say enough about Nick Lonis, the job he's done, and John Jablonowski, Duncan Faust, Jimmy Pleskovich. And those guys have made plays along with Broderick Schreier. They've made plays and they've made enough that you can't just focus on Hayden.
Well, you talked about the change of offense going back to something you'd used about a decade ago with the wing T primarily. So how has that maybe improved as the season's gone along? And have you noticed that teams have defended it different as the season has progressed?
Well, one of the reasons why we went to it is really, you look at last year's state championship games. Of those 6 champions, 4 of the 6 were run-heavy teams. And it sort of dawned on me, and it kind of like, where were we back in 2014 whenever we went to the spread? We went to that spread offense, and no one knew how to defend it because everyone was run-heavy. This year, we went back to, old school wing T, and you could probably say the same thing about Burrell. And everyone now starts with a 4-2-5 or a 3-3 stack, 3-3-5 type thing to stop the spread offenses. And now, you get run heavy teams, and it's not part of the clinic project that they went to learn how to defend spread teams. And so we've had a lot of success with that. And then the offense keeps evolving. It evolves, as players mature and as players can handle more things, and you can put new wrinkles in for them. And that's one of the things that we found in the offense. And, it's been something that's worked for us. And we're really excited because, quite honestly, I don't know that we'd be in the position we're at right now if it wasn't for the change in the offensive scheme.
So I mentioned your team has some momentum. You've won 2 games consecutively in pretty lopsided fashion. Let's focus on the last one against Derry area. I know that was an exciting matchup just based on what it means to the communities. You win 51-7. What were your biggest takeaways from that victory?
I think it was about making memories for our kids. I mean, you start with the rivalry game itself. Kudos to both Joe Scora and Brett Miller for coming up with the idea of having both communities involved with naming the football game and having a perpetual trophy that's going to travel back and forth between the schools, having MVP of the game. I mean, that's what football is supposed to be all about, Sean. And the fact that we're able to do that was, something that made the game, even bigger than it was whenever really there wasn't much on the line for either school. in terms of, playoffs or end of the season, seedings and things like that. But that added to the game. And then, some of the things that we did within the game are very memorable. We've always had a tradition at Ligonier Valley to have fun on senior night. And we came up with the kids make a play. We call it fun play. And basically we had an offensive tackle, Colin Smith, where he had a lateral from Hayden Siraki, and he's credited with a rush. But the play began with another 290-pound offensive lineman going in motion doing the gritty. And so the student section really got involved in that, and just had fun. And then we also employed what we call the sibling defense, and we have 5 sets of brothers on our team, which is phenomenal. We've never had such a thing before. And at halftime, I said to the coaches, I said, why don't, I know firsthand from my experience as a dad that, I had a freshman and a senior that played at the same time. And one of their greatest memories is that they got to share the field together. And I said, hey, let's do this for these guys. So we employed what we called the sibling defense. We put 10 brothers on the field at one time, and McKinley Shear, because he had to keep things all together. And they got to play an entire series. And so for us, the game itself just became one where, we had an opportunity to create memories for kids. And the same with, Bruce Krieger, we got a chance for him to get his very first touchdown of the season. So those were all parts of the things that, as a coach, you hope that they remember someday down the road.
So looking now at the 2A bracket, you get the number 7 seed going against number 10 Western Beaver. Now, you tied Sarah Catholic in terms of the conference record, but Sarah wins the head-to-head, so you finish in third. How did the number 7 seed align with maybe your expectations for this bracket?
You know what? It doesn't really matter. I know that there's a lot of people that have opinions about, where they're at and things like that. Ultimately, in the end, whenever you're talking about the playoffs, everyone has to beat everyone else. So at what point you do that is irrelevant. We were following it where we were. We were just glad to be in because, again, it doesn't matter if you're a 7, a 6, a 5, whatever you're going to be. You have to win all your games to get to the opportunity to play in a championship game. For us, the big thing was we just wanted to be close to home, if not at home. And that worked out because, I can tell you last year, and it's not an excuse because we didn't play well at all, but it's like we never got off the bus after that 2.5-hour trip that we had all the way out to Southside Beaver. That was rough. So, we had an opportunity 2 years ago in 2020, the first year we went to Western Beaver. I'll smile and say, I know what they have in store for them in terms of travel. And from my standpoint, I'm not feeling too badly about it.
Yeah. So you're the home team, and typically you would play at home, but in this scenario, you're going to be playing at Greensburg-Salem, which is not too far away from Ligonier, obviously, and that's a quality field there at Offutt. So what went into that, and how do you maybe prepare your team to play on a field that they had not played on all season long?
Well, fortunately, we play enough on turf field that they're accustomed to that, and our experience has been that we're familiar with Offutt Field from 16, 17, and 18. We used that facility quite a bit whenever our facilities were unusable during our playoff runs. We'd go there for practices, and we even went there in 2019 and played a first round playoff game there. And so we're familiar with it, but again, it's difficult for us because there's one of two reasons that our facilities were not deemed accessible. It's either because our lack of turf or the fact that we're not ADA compliant. That'd be a question more for the WPIAL why they decided that, because I'm sitting here and saying, well, if it's about turf, well, we went to Southside Beaver last year, 2.5 hours away, played on a horrible grass field in a facility that barely had enough water for showers. And I know that we can get their players showered in our facility. And if it's ADA compliance, then we've been able to deal with that as well by having people, giving them opportunities to be on our track and things like that. But it's a shame that in my career, Sean, this is the third time that our kids have earned the opportunity to play home playoff games, and our facilities have taken that away, not only from our kids, but also our community. Whenever you think about all the revenue lost and all the opportunities that people could have had in terms of local businesses, it's really a shame.
Well, you talk about some familiarity with Western Beaver, playing them a couple years ago. They have a good record, 7-3 as well. When you look at them on film, what do they do well?
Very athletic. So I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they have a co-op with Lincoln Park, the performing arts / basketball school that's located up there. And they have a co-op and a lot of those kids from that co-op are part of the Western Beaver football program. And that's the very first thing that pops off the film, are just the athletes that they have. They have a fantastic running back, over 1,000 yards rushing. They have a big, strong quarterback who can really sling the ball down the field. And then they have some very athletic receivers on the offensive side. On the defensive side, they employ the same type of thing defensively, is that they just use their athletes. They blitz like, their tails are on fire. They just bring in everybody, working on their athleticism in the secondary to play you man and just challenge everything that you have. The good thing is that they're similar to like a Sarah Catholic, only without the same amount of size. This is one of those teams that we're going to play where I can honestly say that we're not outsized for once. But that's part of what they do, is that they just bring pressure and use those athletes. So, we have to do a good job of number one, not beating ourselves. That's the most important thing. And in controlling what we can control, long sustained drives, and turn those into scoring opportunities.
Lastly, we know there's some really good teams in this bracket. You saw Steel Valley, which is the number 1 seed, Beaver Falls, Stowe Rocks. But if you are able to win this game against Western Beaver and to get to the quarterfinals against Beaver Falls, the number 2 seed, what would that mean for you and for all the players to get that playoff win?
Well, I think it's one of the things that's really important is that would actually be the very first win in WPIAL history for Ligonier Valley football. And with everything that these kids have done this season, excuse me, that would be the last, a really great feather in their caps of what they've been able to accomplish this year. It would mean a lot to us. And, but one of the things that we like to do is we just say, hey, trust the process. It'll take care of itself. And we're just really fortunate we have an opportunity to compete and do things that a lot of people haven't done. And, 7-3, getting to the playoffs, great season so far, but, now we're in bonus football.
Well, Roger, thanks so much for taking the time. Congratulations once again on getting in the postseason, and good luck on Friday.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Go Rams.